Hello, it's Mila from Hacky Russian, and I'm here to help you learn Russian language easy, fast, and with lots of fun. The idea of this video comes from one of my Instagram followers who sent me this video of Bald and Bankrupt and wrote, "Is it true? Why is every Russian language teacher saying that we have to learn Russian grammar?" Well, this guy was able to learn Russian language by boosting his vocabulary and not focusing on Russian grammar. So, in this video, I'm going to share with you my honest opinion on this topic, whether to learn or not to learn Russian grammar, and I will also assess Russian language skills of Benjamin from Bald and Bankrupt so that you can decide by yourself whether his approach of learning Russian language suits your needs. Ну что, вы готовы? Поехали! Okay, let's watch a short excerpt from this video, which is called "Do Not Study Russian Grammar."
The Russian grammar is the biggest pain in the arse for a Russian language learner than anything else. It's a nightmare. You've got this case system where you need to know these things like the genitive case, the locative case, the accusative case. Man, it's a nightmare.
Well, this is true. Russian language is not an easy language, and Russian cases are really difficult. And I actually admire people who are able to learn Russian cases, actually to learn endings for each case, which is completely unbelievable for me. I cannot understand these people. You have to be really passionate about learning Russian language and really disciplined and hardworking if you can learn endings for each Russian case, because I don't understand how you do this. Well, first of all, because I'm a Russian native and I never did it. I learned Russian language a natural way, and believe me, it is also possible for you to learn it a natural way. It will be much more difficult, of course, because we cannot really, we are adults, and you will anyway be questioning all the time. You will be trying to understand why you need to put a particular ending in this case and not in that case. So it will be much more difficult for you as well, but you need to learn from the context. So if you want to learn Russian language fast and efficiently, you should stop learning Russian grammar the traditional way, because well, it's not the best way to learn a language, any language, and you should really stop focusing on grammar, because learning cases this way is not a good idea. So let's continue.
And it put me off learning Russian for many years, and it stunted my progress completely. Because I was both terrified by the grammar and I was perplexed by it.
I can perfectly understand what he wants to say here, because I have already seen many students, many Russian language learners who couldn't learn Russian language and they decided to quit because of Russian grammar, because they didn't try to learn Russian language a different way. They were persuaded that the only way to learn Russian language is to learn Russian grammar. And it's true, when you try to learn Russian language through Russian grammar, it's too difficult and it makes you feel so miserable. I really mean it, because I've seen so many students who told me that. And well, the only way to learn a language, if you want to speak, is to actually speak and to listen a lot, to try to learn Russian language from the context. Don't try to learn Russian language by learning grammar. Of course, you will be able to learn Russian language this way, but it will take you much more time and much more efforts if you really concentrate on Russian grammar. There are much more better ways to do it and to learn Russian language. Okay, let's see how Benjamin was able to improve his Russian language.
So my tip and how I made great progress was just deciding, that's it. I am not going to learn the grammar. I'm just going to learn vocabulary. And ever since I did that, I made rapid and fast progress, quicker progress than all my friends, quicker progress than the other people in the university courses that I did in the past.
So he has a really great point here. You really need to work a lot on your vocabulary. But it doesn't mean that you should really completely forget about Russian grammar. Because, well, the title of his video says don't learn Russian grammar, don't study Russian grammar, which can be somewhat misleading because the basics are very important. So when you just start learning Russian language, you anyway need to learn Russian grammar. You cannot just forget about it and to learn vocabulary, like to learn vocabulary. No. You should learn some basics to overall understand how the language works, how you should really form sentences. You need to learn pronouns, you need to learn how to anyway conjugate Russian verbs, because otherwise, of course, if you don't know all this, if you just learn Russian vocabulary and you, for example, say я хотеть пить, people will be able to understand you. Well, of course, you should say я хочу пить. But if you say я хотеть пить, Russian people will understand, of course, they will think that you don't speak really that good Russian language, but they will anyway understand that you want to drink. And that is great. That is actually the magic of Russian language, that even though you don't know some grammar, you will be able to make yourself understood. But of course, it's not the best way to learn the language. You need to learn some basics. So the key is to actually start speaking. Start speaking Russian language. No matter whether you're making mistakes or not, no matter whether you know all Russian language rules, it doesn't matter. You don't need to learn Russian grammar perfectly in order to speak. And then, throughout your way, when you speak this language with other people, you can polish your grammar. Of course, you need to learn Russian grammar, but not in the very beginning. In the very beginning, you just need to learn some basics, and then it will be even more interesting for you to discover some new Russian language rules throughout the way when you are improving your Russian language skills. Okay, let's continue.
You know, in perfect Russian, what you should say is, let's say the accusative case. You should say, я вижу эту девушку, yeah? You've got to change the ending of all the words. Okay. But if I say, я вижу эту девушка, you think suddenly some Russian's going to be like, whoa, what the hell's he talking about? He didn't use the accusative case. I don't know what he's talking about. No, of course not.
Well, first of all, I assure you that Russian natives, they will not really be able to tell you every Russian case because, well, for us, it's really natural. So if, for example, you ask some of your friends, hey, which case should I use here? And which case am I using here in this sentence? They will not be able to tell you this, or probably they will be able to remember after some time, but it's not something that we have in our heads because we needed to learn these cases at school, but we could speak perfectly without knowing these cases before going to school. Of course, we could speak properly, and then at school we discovered that the way that we need to change these nouns is actually called cases, declension. So it's perfectly fine if you don't know every name of Russian cases. The most important is actually to know how to use them, in which situations you need to use every of these case, and you need to actually have some patterns, some examples of sentences that will help you to understand how exactly you need to change these words. And again, it will come with practice. You will not be able to learn every Russian case, to memorize the endings of every Russian case and to be able to speak fluently, because you will be constantly thinking about this case system. You will be constantly trying to remember how exactly you need to use these endings, and it will be a nightmare. You will not be able to speak fluently.
So guys, if you want to learn Russian, especially in the first year, Forget grammar. Forget grammar. Drill this into your head. Vocabulary, vocabulary, vocabulary. In learning any language, vocabulary is king.
Well, it's true. And as I told you, you really need to focus more on vocabulary, but don't forget about some basics of Russian grammar, because you will not be able to speak if you don't know at least really some basics. And again, like for example, you need to learn Russian pronouns. This is already Russian grammar. And you also need to learn how actually you need to form sentences, some really basic information about Russian language. This is very important. And what I really recommend to some of my students, and they find it really really great, is to use interlinear texts, because this way you are not learning Russian grammar directly with grammar rules, but you are able to understand how the language works. If you want, I actually have a video on this topic if you want to learn more about these interlinear texts. And yeah, there are many different ways to learn Russian language without really trying to learn every Russian language rule. So now let's assess Russian language skills of Benjamin, and we will see whether his level of Russian is actually enough for traveling and for communicating with Russian people.
Здравствуйте, да? Я думаю, что это мой. Паспорт вам надо?
Паспорт обязательно.
О, даже не международный, но все равно надо, да?
Обязательно нужно.
Это Россия.
Да, это Россия.
Здравствуйте.
So as you can see, some basic conversation is completely fine. So he can really speak in Russian. Of course, his pronunciation is not really perfect. We can see that he has an accent, but it's completely fine. Like, people can understand him, and he can really have a very basic conversation. Well, at the moment we can see that it's basic conversation for traveling purposes, but we will then also see whether he can really discuss some interesting things in Russian. And well, also I noted that he can make some jokes in Russian language, which can also say a lot about his level in Russian language, because you cannot really make jokes if you're not confident in your skills. I have my cat here with me. He will help me to assess Russian language of Benjamin. Okay, so let's continue.
Спасибо большое. В Англии или в Западе мы все говорим, что это было плохое время, что все люди были боятся. Это правда или вы помните это другое совсем?
Okay, so I noticed now that he made some mistakes in Russian language, and honestly, I have already watched this video before, and I didn't notice all these mistakes, which means that if Russian people don't really, when they speak to you, they will not intentionally spot these mistakes, because when I was just watching this video before and I didn't have this purpose of spotting these mistakes, I didn't even notice them. So as you can see, it's completely fine if you speak with some grammar mistakes, and people will be able to understand you.
Никогда не было, что кого-то там боялись.
Нет?
Как-то у меня и детство прошло, и школьные годы. И училась я в институте. Вся так дружно жили.
Okay, so here we can see that this woman speaks quite fast, and he can understand actually what she is saying. So this is really good. So his comprehension is quite good. Well, we will see in other videos whether it's really good or not. But for the moment, I can see that it's fine. Like, he can really understand and grasp the whole sentence of what she is saying. And she doesn't speak very slowly, so it's really good.
Ой, это только я буду здесь или еще люди будут?
Нет, только вы любую
Да?
кровать выбирайте.
Хорошо.
Любую кровать. Так, что-то здесь плавно. Так, сейчас тяньте.
Хорошо. Ой.
So what surprises me here is that this woman is speaking really quietly, but anyway, he is able to understand what she is saying, and she was also speaking quite fast. And anyway, like it was fine for him. He was able to respond and to understand everything that she was saying. Okay, let's watch an excerpt from another video, and this one is from Kyrgyzstan. So as you know, in many post-Soviet countries, people are still speaking Russian language. So let's see.
Где люди, которые раньше здесь есть? Где люди? Нету еще остальное?
Они уже бросили, уехали.
Да?
поэтому
Уехали в
да.
Россию или где?
Да, Россия.
Понял, понял.
Или куда-то уехали.
А вы живете здесь еще?
Я здесь живу.
Да.
Вот это моя дом.
Соседи, это
Да,
хорошо.
да.
А давно?
So again, as you can see, he can speak quite fluently with these women, and I would say that these women are speaking quite fast, and anyway, he can really hold this conversation with them, which is really good. And he, of course, he doesn't use some really advanced vocabulary because, well, in this case, he doesn't even need to use some advanced vocabulary because he needs to speak about some interesting topics like here about their living and so on. Okay, let's continue.
Нет, уже год.
А, только год, да?
Да, да.
Переехали отсюда?
Да, да.
Отсюда? Откуда?
Из США.
Из США? А почему вы переехали здесь?
Там работа нет тоже. Вот детишка здесь
Понятно.
работа. Поэтому
Да.
мы приехали. А там это, жилой дом остается. Даже охранять никого нету.
Понятно.
Okay, so what is really great here is that he responds very quickly. So it means that he reacts, so he can really understand what they say. It doesn't take him a lot of time to understand and to translate it in his head, because this is very often when people are trying to learn Russian language and they cannot really react quickly because they need first to translate sentences in their native language. And as we can see, for him, it's not a problem. So he is able to understand instantly, and it doesn't take him a lot of time to respond. And I also want to make an important point here that actually these women are not Russian natives, so probably it's not their first language, and since they are from Kyrgyzstan, their first language is Kyrgyz, and that is why they still have a very little accent. Well, it's fine for Russian natives, we can perfectly understand, and sometimes it happens that foreigners who learn Russian language, they are afraid that they wouldn't be able to understand some people from post-Soviet countries because they still have some accent. So as you can see, for him it's not a problem. First of all, because he didn't learn Russian language the traditional way, when you're stuck at learning and listening only to some materials where people speak slowly and you cannot really hear some native conversation like people are actually speaking in real life. And in this case, as you can see, it's not a problem for him. He can perfectly understand this woman and any other people who speak Russian language. Okay, let's watch more.
Wow.
Да, это наш клуб. Я родилась в этом селе.
А, да?
Да,
Когда
я-
это было тогда?
Я-
В советское время?
Да, в советское время. И моя мама здесь родилась.
О, вау.
И моя бабушка здесь родилась. И моя прабабушка здесь родилась.
Так это значит, что
И
вы...
моя дочь родилась здесь.
Поздравляю. Но вы русская? Ну,
Я
по корню.
украинка.
Украинка? А почему ваш прадедушка приехал здесь, в Кыргызстан тогда?
Я сейчас вам скажу.
So again, we can notice anyway some mistakes. When he speaks, he does make mistakes, but again, this woman was able to understand everything perfectly, because it's completely fine if you make some mistakes in cases, and if you cannot really use some proper adjectives or pronouns, it is fine. So as you can see, he responds very quickly, he can make some jokes, and well, it's really great. So for a really good conversation, he can manage to speak proper Russian language, and he doesn't need to have some academic vocabulary. He doesn't need to be perfect at Russian grammar. He can speak perfectly Russian language, even though he does make some little mistakes, but it's not a problem. Okay, and here is one of my favorite videos of Bald and Bankrupt. He's in Moldova and he met these wonderful babushkas and got drunk. So let's watch.
Я слышу, что ваше вино в Молдавии самое вкусное. Нет. Я хочу искать домашнее вино где-то в вашей деревне. Может быть, есть.
So just a good example here, he said искать. Я хочу искать. Well, we don't say like this. Actually, he had to say я хочу найти. Not искать, but найти. It's actually the purpose, to find something. Because искать, it's to search. You can say this in English language, I want to search. But in this case, in this particular case, it sounds a little bit... I wouldn't say funny because it's fine, but you saw they didn't laugh, it was fine, they could understand perfectly. So it just to show you that he does make some mistakes even in vocabulary, but it's fine as long as he makes some full sentences and he tries to really make himself understood. It's fine. It's fine if he makes some little mistakes even in vocabulary. As you can see, they could understand him.
Yes?
Есть молдавское чистое вино.
Вы сам делаете?
Да, сама делает, да.
Есть чуть-чуть?
Есть.
Можно попробовать?
Конечно.
Ох, добрый человек, так скоро.
Конечно.
Вау, спасибо вам большое.
So what really amazes me here is that he responds very quickly, even though it may be a little bit more difficult to speak to several people, because as you could see, he couldn't concentrate only on one person. There were several people who spoke, and you really need to grasp all these words, all these sentences that people say. So it means that for him, it's really easy to understand. He doesn't translate everything in his head. It's really natural for him. He can respond quite quickly, and really, it's really amazing what he can do and how he can speak in Russian language.
Вот. Там нету что-то химики или что-то так? Это совсем натуральное.
Well, yes, sometimes he can make some mistakes, really like химики, not химики, but химии, but it's fine, as you could see, they understood.
Натурально, ни сахара, ничего. Тут ничего, чистый сок.
Вы можете объяснить, как вы сделаете вино? Честно говоря, я не знаю. Я знаю, что виноград есть, и потом вино, если бутылочку, но между этим...
Wow, did you see the speed of his speech? Like, he really was speaking very fast. I would say that even natives, usually they don't speak that fast. Like sometimes there are some people who actually take time to speak in Russian language, but he is speaking like at a very normal speed, the usual speed that Russian people speak. So wow.
Да. У меня есть большая бочка, я в ту бочку.
Понятно.
И оно там бродит.
Понятно.
Я уже знаю, сколько там.
Сколько дней надо, чтобы бродило.
А потом у меня...
This lady is explaining how she makes the wine. So first of all, she picks the grapes, obviously, and then she puts it into a barrel. She lets it ferment, and she already understands how many days it needs.
I was really curious to see whether he really understood what she said, because really she used some vocabulary that Russian language learners, well, not all Russian language learners will be able to understand. Like, for example, бродить. Бродить. Actually, this word has several meanings, and he was able to perfectly understand what it means. So, wow, really. Well, probably he was really trying to focus on some alcohol-related vocabulary when he was learning Russian language. Well, I don't know. I don't judge. But anyway, like, really, it's so impressive that he can understand and he can perfectly translate what they are saying, because sometimes when you learn your target language and when you try to speak with some natives, you can pretend as if you understood what they said, but here we can see the proof. He understands everything perfectly because he translated. Let's continue.
Он говорит, что не уместится в объектив, бо полная.
I didn't understand.
Well, yeah, if you don't understand something, you can just laugh and pretend that you understood. Well, here I can understand why he didn't get it, because like when she said this word, umistitsa, it's not really the usual way that we say this word. So of course, if there are some words that Russian people can sometimes change, like for example, we can shorten or we can pronounce with their actually, so they are also speaking with somewhat an accent because they are from Moldova, and that is why he couldn't really understand what they said. But anyway, like, if you don't really understand everything, just try to pretend that it's fine and just laugh.
Мои родители
Да.
были сосланы в ссылку.
Сибирь, Сибирь.
Потому что из Сталина или из-за Сталина?
Да,
при Сталине.
При Сталине, да.
Under Stalin, that... какой году?
49-й.
In 1949, Stalin sent her...
So here, as you can see, he was able to understand a Russian number. It took him a little bit of time to actually understand, but anyway, like, he was able to quickly translate it in his head. So it's really impressive that he's able really to understand what they are saying and translate it instantly in English language.
relatives to Siberia, exiled them basically. Почему? Потому что были молдаванки или нет?
Богатые были.
Богатые.
This is very interesting. Her relatives were...
So again, as you can see, he understands everything perfectly and he's able to translate it straight away in English language. So really, it's really good. Okay, and the last video, here we will see whether he can properly order some food in Russian.
Так, что можно кушать? Что вкусно здесь? Борщ, давайте борщ, да, было бы хорошо. Вот, борщ и компот.
Really great. So he was able to make this really simple conversation. Again, here you don't need to use some advanced vocabulary. He was able to order some food in Russian, and really he didn't make any mistakes.
Ничего не хотите? Нет, просто борщ.
And again, he is able to respond very quickly. Like usually it's one of the biggest problems of many Russian language learners. They can speak on some particular topic, like for example when you tell them, can you speak for example about your life? They can perfectly speak, they will actually try to use all the construction that they learned, but when they need to have a real conversation with people, they are stuck. They cannot do it, they cannot speak, and they are afraid. They are afraid to speak in Russian. So it's not really a purpose to learn Russian language if you can only speak on some particular topics, but you cannot hold a proper conversation, if you cannot go to Russia and to speak with people on the streets, if you cannot order some food. It's not a good idea to learn Russian language only to actually know some grammar and not being able to speak with Russian natives. Okay, I think that this is a point to end my video. I already showed you so many different excerpts from his videos, and you could see by yourself that he speaks a very good Russian language. Of course, he does make some little mistakes in vocabulary, sometimes in grammar. His pronunciation is quite good. Of course, he does have an accent, which is completely fine. And we can also say that he speaks very fluently. He can react instantly, so it doesn't take him a lot of time to think and to translate sentences in Russian language. And really, his level of Russian language is impressive. So if you're just a beginner and you want to learn Russian language the fast and easy way, I really recommend you to start focusing more on Russian vocabulary, trying to learn as much as you can, watching some authentic materials like movies, TV series, listening to podcasts, listening to Russian music, because you can grasp, you can really learn a lot of vocabulary and a lot of grammar from all these authentic materials. So you are not learning Russian grammar directly, you are learning it from the context, and this is really the best way to learn any language. So if you are still watching this video, please find some time to write a comment and share your experience of learning Russian language. Tell us, do you really focus on Russian grammar, or do you try to really boost your vocabulary and try to speak as much as you can? You can also share some of your tips to learn Russian language, some of the best materials that you have used so far, and you will be able to help other Russian language learners this way. I really hope that you enjoyed watching this video, and if you did, don't forget to like it and leave a comment below. Thank you for watching this video. See you next time. Пока-пока.